The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. It's an open line today, and it is the final Mannin Line of 2025. Next one's going to be Monday, the 5th of January, so get it all in today, get it off your chest. Call, text, email and WhatsApp on the open line today. As we look back on 2025, I just wonder what your recollections are, what you'd like to do that you haven't done, what you should have done, anything like that. Alistair Ramsey, the political commentator, once upon a time, journalist, of course, and spin doctor, really, as it was, for the government years and years ago, 20-odd years ago, Alistair Ramsey was there. He says that telling the public a topic is too big for them to have their say is a very dangerous path. This is about the net zero referendum call that was rejected by the members, the referendum on climate change on the net zero thing. Instead of agreeing that the general election would be an opportunity for the public to air its views. I just wonder what your thoughts are. Do you agree with Alistair Ramsey that telling the public that something is too big for them to understand is... Well, what do you think? This is what Alistair Ramsey said.
What I thought was interesting about the net zero referendum proposal, the outcome was that it would be left to the general election for the public to have their say. I'm not sure that the election will be the equivalent of a referendum because of the way our elections work. Normally, the public don't have that much choice. You tend to choose on who's the soundest person rather than the policy views. So it'll be interesting to see how the next general election plays out in that respect.
And it was also interesting in that debate that a number of members said that the whole issue in relation to net zero was too complicated for the public, which is effectively why we elect politicians, so that they can do the more detailed research that the public don't have the time to do. So on the one hand, the referendum was too complicated for a simple yes-no question to be asked. But on the other hand, it would be fine to leave it to the election, which did seem a strange bit of logic.
Yes, I mean, yes, there is a lot of detail and a lot of technical stuff around that question, obviously, that ordinary people can't be expected to understand. But in terms of the broad principles, I think it is talking down to people to say that this is kind of too big for you people to get involved with. I think that's a very dangerous path for politicians to start walking down.
Is that what you thought the government said? You heard they obviously knocked it back, so there won't be a referendum. The proposal was to have a referendum at the same time as the general election. Obviously, that wouldn't incur really much extra cost, and possibly another question or possibly another strip of paper. But everything else is done for the day. All the polling stations are hired, all the tellers are hired, everybody's there. It's all done for the day. So it wouldn't have been that much more extra to put a referendum at the side. And really, it was really to test what the public's view was. And of course, the Deemsters would have written the question. So, it would have been a fairly standard question where this is concerned. I just wonder if you felt a bit disenfranchised, or you think that's what we elect politicians for, which is to make decisions on our behalf. Any thoughts? Well, this is what the former MHK Paul Quine had to say. He said that rejecting the referendum was a hit job by the establishment. He used to be Douglas South, wasn't he, before it became Douglas Central. He was the first political member to suggest asking the Manx public directly about the island's climate direction. And, of course, Timble's voted against holding the referendum. This is Paul Quine.
I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I think what we saw with the debate was basically an establishment hit job. I think once the idea of the referendum let into the public domain, the establishment did all they can to, or they could, I should say, to ensure that it wouldn't take place. So I think what we saw last week was certain patsies, predominantly from the Legislative Council, wheeled out in order to argue the government's case for them against holding a referendum. And ironically, I found that a couple of people without any legitimate mandate from the public were quite easy to argue on the virtues of democracy, which I found to be somewhat ironic, given the fact that this would have been probably the biggest democratic vote in the island's history.
Some people said that it wasn't a binary issue.
I would disagree. I think it is a binary question. I think this is the biggest outlay of cash that the Manx government are looking to spend, and I think that the public need to have a direct say on it, whether they are for it or against it. And I think the question is basically that simple.
And is it just the cash which is your fundamental concern? For example, the wind farms, they were initially meant to be in the region of £20 million, and now we're looking more at the kind of £40 to £50 million. Is it primarily the cost?
Yeah, I think it is. I think a lot of people I speak to, no one wants to live in a dirty world. Everybody wants to live in a clean environment, and within reason, I think people are willing to make certain sacrifices for that. But however, making ostensibly our people colder and poorer, to their detriment, I don't think is a good idea.
What do you think about this? Obviously, the people from Orsted aren't talking at the moment. That's because they're in the middle of this planning application, so we understand the reason that they're not saying anything. But that's the offshore wind farm. Then there's the onshore wind farm at Erie Stane. What's going to happen? Do you remember a few years ago, Laurie Hooper said this would all go away if you suddenly offered people electricity at 20p per kilowatt hour. So in the end, and Paul Quine mentioned it, it's the cost, it's what it's going to cost us, and what our electricity, which is expensive anyway, we pay quite a lot for electricity, what it's going to cost us in the future. And if it's always bandied around, this is cheap electricity, but nobody dare put a price on it, so we don't quite know what it's going to cost us. But anyway, we hire politicians, we give them a 5-year contract, they get a public mandate, so they make the decisions. They are lawmakers, that's what they're there for. Can we really complain when they do their job? You got any thoughts? By all means, get in touch. Here's Betty with us now. Hello, Betty.
Hi. I'm just ringing to say that I agree with Paul Quine and Stu Peters about this. It is too important just to leave to the politicians. The people need to have their say.
Okay, you don't think just because we hire them that we should trust them to do the job?
No, actually, I don't. I don't trust them.
All right, okay. Would it be impertinent of me to ask you how you would have voted?
I would have voted to get rid of the wind farms and to wait and see what happens, because this is a small island. Anything that we do, we might think we're that important, but we're certainly not, and neither is the UK, especially these days.
All right, okay.
So many people have already decided that wind farms are not good enough at present, and we should wait.
Okay, all right. Betty, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling. Have a happy Christmas.
And you. Happy Christmas. All at Manx Radio.
Thank you. It's 12:15, and Shirley's just said we shouldn't be the first to new technology. Well, it's not new technology, Shirley, is it? But I mean, she said, really, there's other technology coming along behind. We shouldn't be throwing all our money at this because it is intermittent. Wind power is intermittent. So when it doesn't blow, we'll need something. We'll need the electricity from somewhere, and we could end up paying a fortune for electricity. We could end up with 87,000-foot wind turbines off the east coast of the Isle of Man if the Orsted plan goes ahead. Bearing in mind we we don't know the terms of it all. We don't know how much Ørsted are going to pay us for the rent of the seabed. We don't know how much the electricity is going to cost when it comes down the pipe from Preston. We simply don't know. And you get the picture that somebody somewhere knows all this, and we don't. So when Alistair Ramsey says, thinking that the public don't understand it or won't understand it because it's just too big for their pretty little heads, what do you think about that? Text, email, call, WhatsApp. Andy dropped a note in. I'm on EasyJet 516 Isle of Man to Liverpool, 7:45 flight today. This was this morning. We departed from the terminal early at the end of the runway at 7:46 a.m. The airport closed at 7:45, wouldn't allow us to take off. Back at the terminal, engine switched off. This is a third world setup. Absolutely abysmal. International Business Centre. Ha ha, says Andy. Here's Julian now. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Yeah, I have to agree with everyone that's been on so far. Betty's right, and kind of strange that we're not allowed to have a referendum. You'd think that with an act there, 9 refusals over the years is kind of saying no to everything, isn't it? I wonder if there's any possible subject that could be put to a referendum with that act.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a good point. The Referendum Act has not been used to date, has it?
No, well, so climate change is too complicated, but we were also refused to change the title of the Lieutenant Governor. So I don't know, between those two, is it possible? So despite the local news, it seems confirming the island's in recession, there is some good news further afield. I noticed that the world's leading disaster database, called EMDAT, is reporting that climate-related deaths since 1920 have dropped by 98%, Andy. So that's pretty good news.
What's that called? EMDAT?
EM-DAT, D-A-T.
Okay.
So they're the world's leader in looking at disasters of all types. So
Right.
They're saying 98% reduction in climate-related deaths.
What's a climate-related death?
Well, things like flooding and, fires. Despite the fact that almost every wildfire we've been reading about ends up with quite a lot of arson involved with that.
And also,
reservoirs that were left
where Los Angeles was concerned, the draining of a reservoir, that didn't help.
Yeah, and it had been left for over a year, and they'd been hammering on about it, but apparently they just left it empty, so there you go. Polar bear world population has trebled since 1970, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Clintel, that I mentioned to you, the group of highly qualified scientists, including several Nobel Prize winners, they've gone over 2,000 members now, so getting pretty high there. What else have we got here? Recent research paper from the University of Krefeld in Germany states that microorganisms called Methyllocapsa are consuming far more methane in permafrost in Canada, Siberia, Greenland and Alaska. So there'll be no cloud of methane likely if there's any melting. And a Professor Cook has analysed the claim that 97% of scientists say that climate change is almost all man-made. When he actually analysed all the papers, he found it was actually 0.3% of those scientists who actually said that.
Where was that? Where's that from, Julian?
This is Professor Cook. So he's been doing a re-evaluation of the 97% of scientists claim that it's all man-made.
Right.
It turns out that some of them say perhaps partially, and some of them say we have no evidence. But the actual scientists who actually say that it's all our fault is 0.3%. Just finishing off, sperm whale population has been re-evaluated by Halifax University in Canada, and they say the number is 34% higher than everyone else thought.
Wow.
And it's around 1.2 million individuals. Fin whale sightings are up by 30 times, according to Dr. Helena Hare of Hamburg University. And finally, blue whales have more than doubled since the 1970s, according to the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration.
Is that because they've banned the hunting of whales? The Norwegians and the Japanese used to be really hot on eating whale meat, didn't they?
Well, that's right. And of course, the big cull, if you like, happened in the 1800s. because it was used for machinery and heating and lighting. But of course, fossil fuels were discovered, which saved the whales, basically, because they were being literally hunted to extinction at that time. So we got fossil fuels to thank for the saving of the whales, it seems.
Interesting. I saw a report on as you said, there's been a sort of ballooning in the population of whales around the world, correlated with the fact that people say that there's no fish, or we're being overfished. And this report indicated, well, it may be the fact there are so many whales and they eat tons and tons of fish all the time. So maybe the reason that there aren't that many fish around is not overfishing, just that there are too many whales.
Except if you use some logic with that, if the population of, say, the toothed whales, like sperm whales, is going up hugely, they need a lot of food. And equally with plankton for the baleen whales, like blue whales and stuff. So there must be plenty of food out there to be sustaining the huge population increases. Yeah. So the idea there's not much fish around, you'd be seeing starving whales everywhere, wouldn't you? I would have thought.
Have you ever eaten whale meat, Julian?
No, I haven't actually. I would imagine if you went up to Greenland or something, you would.
It's ghastly. It's absolutely, well, I mean, in the war, everybody used to eat it because, and they did tinned whale, I think, at one time. But I've eaten it. It looks like steak, and it tastes like the steak's been cooked in cod liver oil.
I think I might forego that one, but there you go.
All right, okay.
Just wish everybody Merry Christmas and all that, and
a Merry
have a
Christmas.
lovely time.
All the best to you. Thank you, Julian. Good to hear from you. Well, Julian was talking about the Treasury Minister admitting that the Isle of Man is facing an economic downturn. A slowdown, if you like, an economic slowdown, after new figures highlighted the economy shrunk for 2 straight years by 7.5% in real terms. But only in October, a couple of months ago, Dr. Allinson claimed that there was no evidence the economy is in recession. So what is it, one or the other?
GDP has been reducing over the last 2 years. It has increased in absolute terms, but in real terms, when you look at the high levels of inflation, and again, the year we're looking at, inflation peaked at 11.9%, it has gone down in real terms. And so, yes, when you get 2 years of real terms reductions, that would be seen as a recession. However, what we're looking here at GDP is quite a crude indicator of the overall health of our island economy. I would say that, wouldn't I, as Treasury Minister? But when you look today at what the economy is doing in terms of the levels of unemployment, which is 0.6%, in terms of the levels of banking deposits, which is at an almost record high, in terms of the resilience of our economy going through 2022, 23 and 23, 24, we are in a much better situation now than we were then.
If we're not in a recession, what would you describe the current contraction to be?
I mean, there's certainly been signs of an economic slowdown from some of the rapid expansion we had before the pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic happened. We got a bounce back after that and increases in real terms in terms of GDP and GNP, which is a slightly different indicator, which is showing a positive rise and which is also related to income from abroad as well that feeds back into our society and our economy.
Well, there we are. Nice to end the year with, isn't it? It's a WhatsApp from 915. It just said, we should have had the referendum. For example, the voters didn't vote for Mr. Cannon as Chief Minister. Well, we don't anyway, do we? We know the situation. You vote for 24 MHKs and they kind of coalesce. They have a get-together. I mean, that happens in many other countries around the world, particularly ones with proportional representation. There are deals done. There's a coalition built. And that's what happens. People coalesce around the Chief Minister. Done it for years, but I'll take the point. But 915 says he didn't even win his own constituency. Oh, he did? No, Alfred Cannon got 2,117 votes at the 2021 election. And the next was Tim Johnston, 1,203. The late Tim Baker came third with 709. So Mr. Cannon did win Aaron Michael very convincingly, twice as many votes as the second place one. The public are going to have to rely on civil servants or other third parties to dictate to our ministers. Well, there's the rub, and we've not really got to the bottom of this. It would be nice to know which particular civil servants have got their hands on the levers of power where this is concerned, because bearing in mind there's an election next September, we could have a brand new lot in. But the civil servants will stay. So it would be nice to know. Well, here's somebody who's got experience of dealing at this level. Bonzo's on now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hello, yes, let's shout at the civil service again. And although there are some justifications for doing that, as I've said before, sometimes the politicians who are there supposed to initiate policy, and provide leadership, sometimes just don't do that. And then the civil service is left to try and keep things on the rails until they might make up their mind about something. Or they might stop changing their minds about things so that the civil service can actually get on with doing the things that they've been asked to do. This is often very confused and is a standard tactic of some politicians that, yes, I can blame my civil servants. Once upon a time it used to be the minister who would take responsibility. Nowadays it's, oh no, it's bigger boys told me to do it than they're in the civil service. So yes, between the truth and fact, as T.S. Eliot used to say, lies the shadow. But I think to just simply then reflect it as an evil cabal of civil service, of civil servants, serving their own interests and also beholden to the World Economic Forum or something, I think is pretty nonsensical. Yeah. But the problem about also voting, for people talking about, we don't vote for the government, we don't vote for the chief minister. Well, neither do they in the UK. I mean, a government is formed from the majority of the party that is elected. Now, some of that voting might be about whether you think Keir Starmer or you think Kenny Badenoch is the best person to be Prime Minister. But most of it will be about the policies. Is my mortgage rate going to come down? Are my wages going to go up? Are things going to get better? So I think, again, just to put it as, if we could vote for the Chief Minister directly, everything would be all right. Not necessarily.
So Bonzo, why do you think that some people follow that line? Is it just political ignorance? Do they not just understand how the system works? Or why is that? I mean, surely it's down to politicians or the political system to make sure everybody knows how it works. Warts and all, where the levers are, who does what and to whom. And surely everybody in a democracy should know how it works.
Yes, but then when you do that, you know who to blame. If you don't explain that terribly well, you then have the option as the politician of blaming the civil servant or blaming the person who you've commissioned to write the report, right, or do the review or some such. If you don't like their conclusions, if they're not politically good enough. And when we're talking about politics and policy that's aimed at populism rather than actual intention, well, I see Paul Quine has jumped very firmly on the net zero referendum bandwagon just in time for the elections in 9 months, which I'm sure he'll be standing in, pushing that kind of populist agenda. Again, referendums, well, there are arguments for having them on the island, but as I recall, the Referendum Act, I don't think that the outcome of the referendum, of any referendum held under it, like in UK with the Brexit referendum, I don't think it has any legal force. I think it's advisory. The only reason that Brexit happened in the UK was because if Cameron had not actually gone with the result and said, oh yeah, it's advisory, right, okay, we'll have a think about it and then we'll do a review or something, then that would have split the Conservative Party in half. And there would have been an instant election. Yeah.
So why have we got a Referendum Act on the Isle of Man if we don't use the darn thing? It's sitting there like a 1963 Ford Anglia doing nothing.
I think that's because it was a reflection of the Referendum Act in UK.
Right.
So it was just sort of extension, really, because one of the things that we can have a referendum on, and indeed the UK have sort of stated as policy for crime dependencies, is that if we wanted to do something like be a dominion, like Canada, or be totally independent, then that's something that we could do, but we'd need a referendum to do it. In order to display the fact that most people wanted it. And it would have to be something like a two-thirds majority, although whether that be a two-thirds majority of the people who voted or a two-thirds majority of the registered electors, that would be a matter for for the Deemsters, I think, under our Act to do that.
You mentioned populism before. I just wonder, what's wrong with populism? I mean, populism gets people voted, doesn't it?
Yes, well, one can argue that's one of the arguments against it. As I think Churchill said, democracy is the worst possible solution until you have a look at all the others.
Yeah.
The thing is about populism is that it trades in simple things, and life ain't simple. So it tends to distort to the extremes, and then you get policy based on what is sometimes termed dog whistle politics, which pander to people's prejudices rather than actually looking at what needs to be done and doing it.
Right. Interesting. I mean, this points to the fact that it will be useful for everybody to know as much as possible about everything, so people can make informed choices, Bonzo.
Well, it's not as if that information isn't there. It's easier for people to take their opinions, perhaps, from when some people phone in and quote references to about 10 various scientific papers that might support what they say. Which then, of course, that people don't have neither time nor interest to go around spending hours and hours reading scientific papers about it. It's also like when people complain about what do Tilwood members do all day. Well, why can't we have direct democracy? Well, if they started to actually having to do some 10 or 15%, let's say, of what Tilwood members do all day in departments and committees and in scrutinising legislation, they'd soon be very, very bored and wondering why we can't hire people in order to do it for them.
Interesting. Okay. Bonzo, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And Nolik Gennell, sir.
Good to hear from you.
Hello, this is Santa. Nolik Gennell as Blaine Vino.
Looking to make the most of your savings? Conister Bank offer a range of savings options, from fixed terms of 6 months to 3 years to variable rate notice accounts with notice periods of 95 to 180 days. And choose monthly or annual interest, whatever works for you. For the latest rates and an application form, check out conisterbank.co.im. Conister Bank, celebrating 90 years of community, heritage and connection. Here for the journey. All deposits are subject to status, terms and conditions apply. No early withdrawals permitted. Qualifying deposits made with Conister Bank are covered by the Isle of Man Depositors Compensation Scheme as set out in the Depositors Compensation Scheme Regulations 2010.
NFU Mutual Insurance in Douglas would like to thank all of our existing customers for your continued business throughout this year, and we look forward to serving you further into the coming new year. And to prospective customers, remember, NFU Mutual are local to you on South Quay, Douglas, for all of your personal, commercial and business insurance needs. Call us on 674 191 to see how we can help you. Wishing everyone a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year from all of the staff at NFU Mutual Insurance.
Walton's for electricals. Great service, great price and stock to go.
For everything electrical for your home, it has to be Walton's. At Walton's Electrical, we have a huge stock of ready-to-go items at incredible prices. Open Monday to Saturday 9 till 5 on the Isle of Man Business Park, Braddon. Find us online at waltons.im and follow us on Facebook for our latest offers.
Walton's for electricals. Great service, great price and stock to go.
From cutting-edge innovation to positive local impact, the Moor Vannin offshore wind farm will transform how the Isle of Man powers its future with greener energy and a stronger community. Learn more at orsted.im.
On Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock on Manx Radio FM, we'll be celebrating 40 years of Bushy's Beers with brewery founder Martin Brunchweiler.
And we had a couple of stuffed foxes in the bar. One of them, it was the top of a fox coming out of the beer barrel, and on the side of it said, I'm having a wonderful time.
So join me, Dave Moore, for 40 years of Bushy's this Monday at 5 with a longer podcast version available at manxradio.com.
Merry Christmas.
It's 24 minutes before 1. David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Bang on. Lovely. Just want to tell you, this is fact now. My solar panels are making 1.5 kilowatts, and I've charged my battery up 19%. But the issue here is what is our government doing to support the community, to give us alternative energy support and supporting us to actually do an alternative than gas or oil? And this is the whole point that the Isle of Man's got to realise, and the population, which is going into next year, not far away now, next year, in election mode, isn't it? To say that the politicians that we're in and the ones we're going to get in the future is, what are they going to do to secure us as the Isle of Man for our energy?
Well, the thing is, if everybody knew what their options were, so if everybody knew whether, you own a house or you rent in a house and the landlord knows, if you knew what your options were, and particularly if there was some sort of tariff on it whereby, you could afford to get, because these things aren't cheap. I mean, solar panels aren't cheap, the batteries and everything, they don't come cheap. So it might be nice to know what their options are. And as you've mentioned many times, they're not really coming forward doing it even on their own buildings.
No, well, that's the saddest thing going is you look at all the schools we've got. I know hammer on about it all the time. The public buildings, the NSC. I think even in Stuart Peters' time, there was the post office was going to have PV panels on the roof. And I think they lost in planning somewhere. I don't know how that comes about. And they've got electric vehicles running around. And what are they plugging them into? The network, aren't they? Using the power station instead of providing power for themselves from the roof. It just, I don't know. But the other thing I was going to say to Andy is consultations. I'm fed up of consultations where we've got another one coming out today, which Manx Radio publicised, which is great, are there homeless people on the island? Yes, there is. And we had it last year. And do you remember John?
I certainly do, yes. Many people remember John.
And that wasn't any help from government there. These politicians said, one of them said, you've got to phone this particular number. I did phone that, and he got no help at all. He got no help at all. They just said to him, and this is fact all the time, they said to him, spend your money. He had about £3,000 or £4,000 in his bank account.
Right.
And they said to him, I was there when they said to him, spend your money, get into some sort of accommodation, and when you've got no money left, come back to us. Now, that's not the way to do it. And we have all these charities that are working on the Isle of Man, and I did say that the other day, thanks to Kell Properties for supporting some of the charities there, putting it out there, what charities there are, and Manx Radio for doing little bits and pieces like that all the time. That's absolutely great. That's what happens.
You see, David, the worst thing, I mean, everybody's going to, lots of people listening now will have a really nice Christmas, a warm, friendly, well-fed Christmas with people around them. There will be people who don't have that option. And that on a first world island, on a rich place, surely that's something we shouldn't let happen.
Yeah. And do you know what, Andy, really annoys me? A government department, which is health, is in charge of a charity which has like 16 flats in Onken, and there's only one person living in them now because they've vacated them all down. Most of them have gone to local authority accommodation, and that could be turned over for accommodation fairly easy. We've got the old down by the museum, the old place that was down there. I forgot what it's called now.
Albert Terrace, Retna Bay.
Retna Bay. There's another unit there, which is government-owned. It's owned by the taxpayer, ran by the government, which are doing nothing about it. We've got all sorts of things, land which the government owned, and I'll go through them again. The Park Road site, what are we doing there? The old prison site, what are we doing there? East Cliff is empty. A big building like that, what are we doing about it? Have we got a strategy? And I wish, at the end of the day, I remember, and I'm not blaming the Chief Minister, I'm blaming all the government because they're not getting together to talk about different things, is why can't the Chief Minister give them direction? Now, I think under the Act somewhere, under the Council Ministers Act, the Council Ministers or the Chief Minister can have direction, which says to X, Y, and Z is, we're directing you to get your finger out to get this done and work it out and make it happen. And that's what should happen. Anyway, Andy, have a good Christmas.
You too. Oh, by the way, while you're there, I've got a lady called Kay emailed in just to say, she dared me to ask her. She said, I bet you daren't ask David if he's going to stand for election next September.
I've got to ask the wife.
Okay.
I'd love to. The trouble is, I'm over 70 now. I've got a good brain. I'm not as quick as I'm on my feet and whatever. But at the end of the day, I'll be watching to make sure those candidates are standing for Onken anyway are going to be A, the right candidates, and B, they're going to do something.
All right.
And get involved. When I see politicians not getting involved in government departments, that really, I look at them shamefully and say to them, what are they doing to get their £57,000 a year? Some of them are actually doing nothing.
Okay.
All right, mate?
Have a good Christmas. Thanks for calling.
See you, lad. Bye.
Cheers now. It's 18 minutes before 1.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good luck, says 223. If you're using the Isle of Man Bank, their ATMs aren't working at the moment. And at Athol Street, there are only 2 staff on the counter. The queue is out of the door. Apparently, this is about 10 minutes ago. Is that true? If you're driving around Prospect Hill or Athol Street, that's the reason for the queue. Here's Juan now. Hello, Juan.
Andy, how are you? You all ready for Christmas?
Oh, couldn't be readier.
Well, I've bad news for some of the local kids. I believe Santa said that he's not going to get all his deliveries done this year because of the 20-mile-an-hour signs.
Is that what it
so
is?
There's going to be a few people that's not going to get their deliveries. Never mind. Michelle won't be able to get her DAFTA award. I put it in the post for her, so she's not going to get her present. Anyway. Just listen. I mean, David said there before about solar panels, and again, it's the costing, isn't it? We said there of what you're getting out of it for the cost of these things. I mean, again, like we said before about other countries the other day, these cost far less in other countries to put in a solar system in your house than what they do in England. So it's what you're getting out of it compared to the cost. I think David mentioned 1.9 kilos. Well, that's really not a lot when you look at what a kettle takes and stuff like that. It's not really a lot that you're getting out of it. So I think solar is a great backup system to help you along the way. But I don't think we can still do about proper base load mains. I mean, that's the whole issue.
Well, it helps. The thing is, it costs a fortune to put it in the first place.
Yeah.
But over many years, and it will put money on the house if you're selling. So it will save you money. The trouble is that the Manx utilities are selling electricity to us at 29p a kilowatt hour, and I think, what do you get? 9p if you sell it to them.
Yeah, and I mean, in America, I couldn't understand when I came here many years ago why there was not so many solar panels. And I think what happened was that there was a massive surge of solar panels in America some time ago, quite a few years ago, and of course there was a big storm came, and all the solar panels got broken. The insurance companies wouldn't pay for them because they weren't part of the house. They were attached to it. So people then said, oh, we're not doing it again. So they went off solar panels and never went back to them. So people have got them now for maybe using their swimming pool and access stuff like that. But generally, everyone still runs off mains. And I mean, you come to a place like Florida, you would think that solar panels is going to be the main thing. And in places like Africa, they use it because of the instability of the grid that they have there, and they keep having the outages. So that's kind of one of the reasons why they use it there. Just on a finishing note, Andy, I just wanted to say I was reading there the other day, is it per capita of head? That may be the wrong expression to use, actually. We're ranked one of the highest for OnlyFans, for people downloading OnlyFans on the Isle of Man.
Well, how about that?
Well, I know that's not why you're running off all the time, Andy, is having days off. You're not loading content on there, are you?
Nobody's that bored.
Nobody's that bored. You know, I mean, and the good thing about it, Andy, is I think now that at least the government can make some money out of its cock-ups, can't it?
All right.
There you go.
Thanks for calling today.
You have a
good Christmas.
Have a good Christmas and good Christmas and Happy New Year to all the listeners, and look forward to the cut and thrust of politics next year.
All right. Thanks, Ewan.
Merry Christmas from everyone at Doom School.
Thank you, 232 said, do you know we have poles going in and out of Onchan towards Ramsey, flashing 20 miles per hour, then angry red when people drive by at 30 miles per hour. Are they legal? And also Pete, who said, regarding Isle of Man Bank, Athol Street, yes, it's true, I spent 20 minutes in a queue, which when I left was up to the door, says Pete. The ATMs at Athol Street aren't working. I do hope they get them working before Christmas. It would be a shame to be without a few pound notes, or maybe we are going cashless. Churches should be open every night so the homeless don't have to sleep outside. Do some already? I don't know, H. If you know that any churches are going to be open over Christmas for homeless people. Regarding the referendum, we can have one at the next election by voting all the sitting MHKs out, says David. Happy Christmas, and you too as well. ATMs working at the sea terminal, they were getting filled. The bank was full, but 3 tills are open now, apparently, at Isle of Man Bank.
Manx Solar Electrical offer wise solar and heating solutions for home and business. We're the Isle of Man's trusted experts in solar panels, Tesla battery storage and energy-efficient heat pumps, helping you power your home sustainably and save money. Call 66 5800 or visit manxsolarelectrical.com.
Come to Manx Solar Electrical.
Our island's energy reimagined.
When you want the best.
This Christmas, take the pressure off your plate and let the Isle of Man Creamery bring the best of local goodness straight to your door. Fresh milk and dairy, pastries, coffee, Ross Bakery loaves, eggs, potatoes and more. Look out for Christmas specials like Noah Bakehouse mince pies and Oakel's smoked porter mature cheddar. Sit back and let Christmas come to you. Order now via the app at isleofmancreamery.com/deliveries.
Celebrate the season at Robinson's. From A&J Butcher's premium cuts for festive feasts to Ross Bakery's irresistible fresh bakes, we bring you the flavours that make Christmas shine. Explore succulent seafood, seasonal local produce, and even real Christmas trees to fill your home with holiday cheer. Don't miss our in-store flower and gift displays, perfect for stunning blooms and thoughtful presents. Robinson's is your trusted destination for quality, freshness, and festive joy. Let the celebrations begin at Robinson's Food Hall, Cool Road, and Robinson's on the Terrace.
Hello. If you're broad-minded, why not enjoy the latest edition of Manx Radio's satirical comedy programme, I Am One? It's as disrespectful as ever of Manx politics, Manx life and Manx radio itself. Very funny if you like that sort of thing. If you don't, then clearly it isn't and you'll hate it. Made entirely without the assistance of any artificial intelligence, other than that found naturally at Manx Radio. I Am One. I'm dreaming of a wet Christmas again. 5 p.m. on Christmas Day and almost certainly repeated ad nauseum, particularly if you listen to the podcast.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
10-1 it is. Yesterday was with Nick Kay, and interesting time it was too as well. The day before on Wednesday, there was, I recall the story from our own Ian Cottier, presenter of the Brass Band programme, who played for Russian United in 1954. And played against the RAF at Jurby, and they got absolutely spanked, 15-0, Ian said. Actually, I've done some checking. In fact, I say I've done some checking. The good people at Manx National Heritage have done checking, because all the green finals are actually on the iMuseum. You can actually check all the green finals. And the match was on Saturday, September 25th. That was the green final anyway. The RAF took on Russian, and Ian said it was 15-0 to the RAF. There were 15 goals scored, but the actual score was 13-2. So it wasn't anywhere near a draw. RAF 13, Russian United 2. And Ian mentioned that one particular player for the RAF was doing his national service and went on to play for Manchester United and England. And we tried to find out who it was. The team, by the way, for Russian, in fact, if you remember all this, Kelly, Collister, Karen, Darnell, Cottier, that was Ian, Cool, Corkish, Watterson, Naylor, Grace and Miller played for Russian United. It was the opening game of 1954-55 season. And thank you to all the people, including, where were we? John and Bernard, who said you were trying to identify the ex-Manchester United player who played for the RAF team against Russian just after the war. I think the player was Warren Bradley, who became a teacher in the Midlands. And even more closer to home, it started with Ian Cottier, one of our own, and Simon Quine. One of our sales team also hosts shows on Manx Radio. Simon's granddad, Darryl Quine, said the footballer that Ian Cottier played against was Warren Bradley, who went on to play for Manchester United. He got a hat-trick in that game, the 15-2 spanking of Russian United. They recruited players from Bishop Auckland after the Munich air disaster. He even played 3 times for England, scoring 2 goals in 1959. And it is indeed true. Warren Bradley played for RAF Jurby. At the moment, we're trying to check through our RAF connections, of which we have many, to find out, because we were trying to access the records for RAF Jurby, but they're under lock and key. But we're trying to confirm Warren Bradley, the footballer who was born in Hyde in Chester, or Manchester it is now, in 1933, was indeed on national service in 1954 at Jurby, did play for RAF Jurby. It all points to it, and everybody seems to think it was Warren Bradley, but he did play for Bolton Wanderers. He played for Manchester United, was there from 1958 to 1962, played for Bury, played for England 3 times. He played for England under Walter Winterbottom. And then when he retired, had a long career as the head teacher of the Dean School in Bolton and worked with the Manchester United Ex-Players Association. What a story. Who would have thought that? And that was just a tale that Ian is 90 years of age now and still presenting Time for Brass every Monday on Manx Radio. The story of the player who played for RAF Jurby, played for Manchester United, and then played for England. And there he was. I wonder how many other famous people went through RAF Jurby. With the fact that the records are somewhat under lock and key, we don't really know. But thank you to everybody, including Simon Quine's granddad, Darryl Quine, who told us all about it, and also to Bernard and John as well. I don't want to sound like the Grinch, so thank you for that. Hillary said, I don't want to sound like the Grinch, but why are there so many dismissive drivers with no blue badges parking in disabled bays outside Frank Matcham's, the front of Noble's, the disabled bay by the terrace? I just think it's rude. Happy Christmas anyway, says Hillary. Yeah, that's one of my bugbears. You probably know that before. Can't remember anybody ever getting prosecuted for parking in a bay, in a disabled bay, when they're not actually allowed to. I did mention it's the final Mannin Line of 2025. Thank you very much for your input throughout the years. Thanks very much for feedback, as it were. We're going to be back on Monday, 5th of January. In the meantime, if you've got anything you want to report, by all means email manninline@manxradio.com or...
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
When it comes to the next election, I want to ask one question to my two MHKs. To all MHKs. Is it yes or no for net zero? Do you think I'll get a straight answer from any of them? Bruce, I wouldn't wait. The government were never going to agree to a referendum, says Texter 795. It would prove that they got things wrong. It would show that they wasted millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. Net zero means trying to achieve the impossible while wasting millions that could be better spent elsewhere. Thanks also. Wendy just said the thing with net zero is who decides when enough is enough? Because it doesn't seem like there's an end game. Who decides which big organisation will say, yes, you've done enough, now you don't want to do any more? Good point. Wind farms could break our bank. The world is still undecided. Rolls-Royce and others are developing small nuclear units will be the answer for a small island like ours. We can't borrow from the World Bank like the UK. If we go bust, the UK will sweep us up and we'll have one MP. We can't afford to get this wrong, says Liz. Simon said, I think a referendum should go ahead about the wind farms, but before it happens, we need to know the exact cost, how much electricity the wind farms will generate, and how much our electricity will cost in the future. I think they can't hold the referendum because the government can't supply all the figures needed to make an honest decision on the matter. Kirsty said, personally, I'm in favour of wind farms, and everyone I speak to is as well. We have to invest. We have to invest in the future and not hang around. There are plenty of windmills in the UK, and people are used to them by now. Kevin said it's obvious the government doesn't want a referendum because the result would go against their future agenda. It feels like the democratic process is being undermined in the Isle of Man. The referendum, or a lack of it, says Ian, proves that it's time the Isle of Man moved towards party politics. That's it. That's it for Mannin Line for 2025. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks to Chris on the phones today and anybody who's ever come to one of the outside broadcasts. More of those in 2026. Have a very Merry Christmas and a happy 2026.
WILFM